live. Hi. It's been years since I have gone live, and I felt like right now, when everything feels crazy, was a great time to do that. So I took a bunch of notes, and I'm going to be reading from them, and I'm going to pull some cards at some point too, but some points of what I'm sharing might feel not like a lecture, but I feel like sometimes I'm kind of boring. Maybe that's not the best way to start this out. But I have a lot to say and share, and it segues from, okay, maybe that's not the right way to say that either, but we're going from the full moon energy into the eclipse energy. Can you hear me, people who are here? Hi. I haven't used this, I have a new phone, and I haven't gone live in forever, so I'm so used to recording, I feel like I want to just turn this off and start over, but I'll keep going. So hopefully you can hear me. And what I'll be talking about, like I said, is the full moon to the eclipses. Hi. And so we're going over like a lot of things. Some of the things I'm talking about were brought up in my Patreon space. And so it's, you know, sort of an invitation if you wanted to come play in there, but also I am presenting this information because I would like to do some readings as well. So I'm feeling really hot. I'm feeling really nervous. I'm feeling like I want to vomit. And that's kind of how I am when it comes to like showing up. It doesn't matter if I'm recording myself. Okay, cool. Or like when I was little, just people saying hi to me and I'd be like, throw up. So yeah, I feel like with the North Node in Aquarius across the board, it's also a good time. Just kind of like put yourself out there. We're all in it together in some way, shape, or form. So recently Mercury went direct, right? And the tropical nodes shifted to North Node Aquarius and South Node Leo. And of course, I am speaking about tropical. Even if people hate that, I'm going to just speak on it. And if we were to look at 13 sign midpoint, the North Node is Aquarius and the South Node is Leo. So there is, even though they're in different positions, somewhat of like this alignment across the board. Again, even though people don't like that, I'm not here to prove anything. And I'm not even here to necessarily, I don't know, I feel like I don't know words when I'm trying to say them, but whatever the opposite of doubt is, I'm not necessarily trying to encourage you to figure everything out. And so don't look to me for the accuracy of astrology necessarily. We do have Saturn retrograde, and right now Neptune and Pluto are also retrograde. Saturn just recently joined. And then upcoming on August the 3rd, we have Chiron joining them. So these upcoming eclipses, it's on August 12th. So what's today? The 30th. So it's in a couple weeks. And then a couple weeks after that will be the next eclipse. So we have the new moon solar eclipse and then the full moon lunar eclipse. There's no Mars retrograde this year, but there's a Venus retrograde, and that pre-retrograde energy, or just like the when Venus enters the retrograde phase, that will begin at the end of August. And so that doesn't need to mean anything to you, but Venus retrograde, I take it sort of as this relationship recalibration, and that's relationships across the board with ourselves, others, with things, places, habits. So it can be quite uncomfortable. It doesn't come around as often. And it will officially begin October 3rd. And Mercury will eventually join Venus when it is retrograde. That's in the future, so we don't need to talk about it, but it's sort of like a gentle warning. So with this full moon, I know it was yesterday, but I'm talking about it today because I'm bringing in some themes with the full moon and sort of how I see things, and again, these upcoming eclipses. So we have a lot of things in the mix, like the sun conjunct Jupiter. People say it's the luckiest day of the year. I don't look at it that way, but I do feel like there's a lot of sort of reclamation or balancing, you know, words, again, words are wordy, but like it's more of a feeling, a vibe. of like masculine energy. You could say with Jupiter as Jupiter, Zeus, that's there. But you know, maybe it was lucky for you. I'm not trying to take away from that at all, but also not trying to say like, don't feel bad if you didn't do anything that felt like super lucky and like the best day ever. Because collectively, I feel like we're going through sort of a hard time. Not that everything is awful. Whoever wants to say that it's not all bad. Yeah, of course. However, I think a part of us being alive right now is acknowledging hard times and certain things, not necessarily identifying with them, but for those who relate to having, let's say, kidney stones. This past weekend, I passed some kidney stones for the first time in years, and it was awful. And it's one of those things where I know I feel uncomfortable discussing it with people that are going to judge me about my health. That's how, it's not just like in certain circles, in general society, people will kind of be like, ew. They don't even need to say it, but you can sort of feel it. So not that everyone is like that, but like I said, it's like being mindful of where we're sharing things, of course, but also that it's, I think, a good thing to discuss this. So like for me, I can handle a lot of pain. I've broken bones in front of people and then been like, owie. And that's not to be like, I'm tough. It's just that I have the experience of not really getting a lot of help from other people because they're like, she's fine. Or maybe they think I'm lying when I'll be like, ooh, excruciating pain. But if you've had kidney stones, yes, they're very, very, very painful. They're not always the same, but they're also like this, I took it at least as, yeah, Eva, this sweet moment of like, all right, it's almost like a reset though, where you go, I give way less of a fuck about all these other things that were bothering me because I am in excruciating pain. And also, instead of just looking at something like that as like, kidney stone, that means you ate some food, which yes, I probably ate something. I feel like it was a mixture of things. I'm pretty sure that, I don't need to share all the things with you about my specific kidney stones, but I don't need to even look at it as, oh, I'm in a fear state and that's why this is happening. I'm here to, again, sort of put out a call, and I know for some of you on here, maybe all of you, those who relate to being sort of like grid keepers, and not in a sense where we're like talking about it all the time and we're like talking about these battles, but that we are literally processing collective energy at times. So not blaming other people, and not to say it's all other people's stuff, but there is something to those of us that are very sensitive. And when our body is taking on all these things that are not ours, and it goes, no more. And so I feel like when these things arise, something like a kidney stone, it doesn't have to be a health issue, but just something that, it's like, oh, now I forget what I was going to say exactly because I looked down at my notes, which if you know me, that's usually my notes being like, that you're not reading any of us. You're just going on and on. But there's just something to the feeling of when it arises and taking it as instead of the worst thing ever, like an invitation to change the way you're doing something maybe. And no, BRB. And no, it doesn't mean like, again, oh, I need to change and I'm going to figure it out. That's the scariest part. And again, with kidney stones as an example, because you do not want to have that pain. And yet there's something to really showing up for yourself and just whatever you need to do. And a lot of that starts with the way we talk to ourselves, the way we speak to ourselves. So I feel like this full moon has sort of drudged up a bunch, and I am not someone who worships the moon necessarily, but I do take note of the tides. So we have the sun and Jupiter, and then we have, I didn't really talk about them, but I wanted to mention them, Psyche and Hygeia. They're also in the mix here. But then we have the moon and Pluto and Juno. And if you're looking like for technicals, also the Earth is listed there. And all of that moon stuff, moon, Pluto, Jupiter, is at Altair. How do you, I feel like I know how to say things, but especially since I hit my head, I do not remember. Or I'll be like, remember that's how you say it, not that way. Like I cannot for the life of me, even though it's a simple thing, remember that it's not Ptolemy, but I like saying it And I like inviting the idea that people would watch me and go, she's stupid. And not even listen to what I'm saying. So, okay. Altair is a fixed star. And so I have, like I said, I took a lot of notes. So we'll see how long it takes me to get through them. I might speak sort of quickly at times. You don't have to stay for this whole thing, but thank you for being here. And, I mean, I haven't done a live in a while, but I'm pretty sure I'll be able to post the replay. So about 100 years ago, we had these like significant shifts. Not to say there hasn't always been significant shifts, but we are just alive in these bodies right now. So let's just talk about that. We'll talk about some other things, but about 100 years ago, some of these shifts that I'm speaking about were prohibitions: opium, alcohol, and cannabis, although cannabis is typically called marijuana. They say governments had to intervene because of addiction, but who and what are the government? People often call others stupid or crazy, or they just dismiss things that they're saying, but really think about it. Is it just about power and money and control? Yes, but also energy. And then I kind of giggle and I write NRG, because that's the Nephilim reversal grids in Keylontic science, NRG. That's at Stonehenge. So I'm going to be talking about different stories here. Okay. So I want to read this first card that I pulled though. And it's from this deck, Therapets. It says, every time you thought life would defeat you, you was wrong. It says you were wrong, but I said you were wrong. You were wrong. Can you admit that you were wrong? So, this card, or this character at least, is also the face of the entire deck, like on the front of the box. So, that sort of Leo energy to some degree with the South Node even. Like there's something of like being the face of something, but also we are all these treasure chests full of knowns and unknowns. So we could go back to the 1300s, the 1600s, or way further back and discuss linear histories of this design. We see today, like certain brotherhoods, certain organizations of heraldry, the law of the sea, or Rhodian sea law, Lex Rhodia, like Order of Rhodes, Order of Malta, etc., etc. But we can also touch on some other stories. Before I read that story, though, I will read this card, too. And this is a card I pulled for that Patreon group that I mentioned. It's a flower card, as you can see. It says poppy. And sometimes when I was writing these notes, I accidentally wrote poopy. Wield the sun. There's a poem. I'm going to read it. Wield the sun like a beloved heirloom blanket, protected in generations of courage and worn threads, woven together so long ago to hold you in this moment. From this place of letting go, the next step is easy. And I sort of look at it as letting go of everyone else's BS and like holding on to yourself in some sense. Unless you need to be like, I need an ego death. That's cool too. So in Keylontic science, specifically in Voyagers 2, hi, and of course you joined for this hilarious story. This is a little snippet of a different kind of story about, aliens. So consider what I'm saying. About 100 years ago, and all these things we're trying to make sense of in linear order and linear time and all these histories. However, from Voyagers 2, it says, from 1903 to 1916, the Zetas of Phantom Earth, sounds like Star Wars, they opened this Atlantean Falcon wormhole. It's off the coast of Charleston, South Carolina. It's in the Atlantic Ocean, and this began speculation for invasion. And if you're like me and you, since you were little, were like, I do not like the bad aliens, that's sort of like this energy. Militant Zeta Regalians, and I don't even like talking about them, to be honest. This is a force of Phantom, Alnitak, Orion. It's like they took over this wormhole and they were like, how can we infiltrate the Earth's government? And then pretty much right after that is when you see a lot of things rise with UFO sightings and tinfoil hat sort of stuff. So this would be like if you wanted to say movies are telling us things, then it's like, oh, Men in Black was trying to tell us something. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know the truth of all truths, but I do like a good alien storyline. So this was on behalf of the Zeta Draconian energy. So it's a little bit different, where it was like one group of bad aliens, and then these other bad aliens were like, no, man, we're taking over. So they overthrew the historically positioned Anunnaki stronghold, the Illuminati covert OWO. What does that stand for? One World Order, baby. These are these operations that they set in place where they said a lot is about to shift for those humans, and we have to fuck their lives up. So they began completing progressive conquests for activation and dominion of these implant networks that exist. They're called APIN. And so this was in preparation. This was all the way back in the early 1900s, in preparation for the stellar activation cycle of 2000 to 2017. Now, without getting into which stories are factual, which stories are accurate, which are the truth, there's something to be said for Earth's current state of affairs, or the last 100 and some years. No, not all bad, like I said, but enough is pretty fucking awful. And it's as if everything is just a little off. Like things are coming to a head. Hello, Yang Fire Horse here. That calamity to collective harmony energy. So again, with these prohibitions about 100 years ago, the claim is addiction, the solution to tax and arrest people. But what would drive so many, whether openly or in secret or private, to not want to be here? Business corruption, money problems, issues in relationships, unsupportive parents, bad aliens. It's as if the spells are so thick that one will reach for a daydream while perceivably awake. A daydream to help us forget that which we can't fully remember, or maybe more appropriately, can't fully recollect. In the last 100 years alone, a wave spell turned to a tsunami. Prohibitions, petroleum clubs, the beginning of the rise of Hollywood, these UFO sightings, these tinfoil hats, Roswell and the formation of the CIA, the Big Five, the Little Three, networks and systems of supposed intelligence and connection. Sigmund Freud, Edward Bernays, social engineering, engineered consent, mind control, all to be here now, a little bit mind-fucked. And it's not all about America, but America as this holographic echo. And that is a very specific set of words, a holographic echo. An experiment of sorts. So this full moon at Altair, mention of Hercules, of poppy prohibition. We have Altair as the brightest star in the Aquila constellation. It's an eagle. It's Altair is the 12th brightest star in the night sky. And 12, I like that number. Altair is known as the eagle star, the pillar of heaven, or even the river drum, which makes me think of a heartbeat. And a highlight here is from the Keylontic material. And while I love that material, I also encourage great discernment with it, because it was set for a certain time that I feel we're beyond, and not that it's not useful, but it is almost like a recipe for some sort of psychosis at a certain point as well. When it comes to insisting certain things are a certain way when we are truly a part of everything in this holographic manner. So at one point, when it comes to like seeking outwardly, it's not that you can find everything inside, but some of the Keylontic material can encourage you to point fingers at everybody else and everything else too. So we have the Orifim, though. This is the highlight. Orifim are said to be 24 to 48 strand DNA templates, these angelic humans, which I sort of look at as everyone here. And I know that's not how people see it, but that's how I see it. I feel like everyone here is that. They're just maybe a little asleep. These are the Azurites of Sirius B. These are the Anuhazi of Lyra Arametena. We have like a highlight of densities 2 to 4, so that's dimensions 4 through 12. That's some big stuff when we're talking about, you know, like a shadow of the fourth dimension being how we're experiencing this third dimensional plane, or that we, you know, our consciousness exists up there and it can, not necessarily literally, but sort of, yeah, look down at us. That's why you feel like someone's looking at you all the time. But 12, in a 15-dimensional time matrix, the dimensions 1 through 12 would be more of the identify, like where we're having an identity, an individualized identity. And so there's something there to this like connection we have, and a message I'm trying to encourage or share here, even like I said in the beginning, if it sounds kind of like a boring lecture at times, I don't know. At this level, we also have pre-matter, etheric matter, semi-etheric matter, and that reminds me of a note of something I didn't write and I have to add. Okay, so this is about 568 million years ago, storyline wise, and I just want to point out that million years ago is MYA, the Maya. How many millions of years? Hi. So with this, we also have Sirius B, Procyon, Orion, Mintaka, Gaia, Tara, Alcyone, and Altair. So there's this, I feel something, maybe like a fire horse bucking up with this full moon. So before some of the Treaty of Altair stuff that I want to share, let's play around with some Altair lore. They say in 1983, on August 15th, Japan sent some calls there, 13 messages specifically focused on DNA and the evolution of humans, or just of life here on this planet. This was called the Call to Cosmos 83. And in 2023, after one of the project's heads had passed away, Japan's aerospace was prompted, like, hey, let's look into if there was ever any response. And they chose August 22nd in 2023 to do this. To see if there were any potential replies, which I don't believe there were. But this day in 2023 aligned with a day called Tanabata. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it is sort of like this holiday in Japan. And so according to the old calendar, that is when it was. And so this year it would be August 19th. But what is it? It's a star festival for these deities represented in this story. And in the story, they are two characters. They're Vega and Altair. And they're lovers separated by the Milky Way. So Vega as, and forgive me again, I don't know how to pronounce these. Vega as Orihime and Altair as Hikoboshi. This is the story called The Cowherd and the Weaver Girl. So a condensed version of this tale. We have Orihime or Vega, the weaving princess. She is the daughter of the Sky King, or the king of the universe itself. She wove beautifully. You could say garments, but I feel like there's some layers to what this is about. She wove beautifully by the bank of what is called the Heavenly River, the Milky Way. And she was lonely, so the Sky King introduced her to the cowman, or cowherd, or literally translated to boy star. This is Altair. He worked on the other side of the Heavenly River. They fell in love and they got married. And then the father was angry and jealous. He said, there's cows running everywhere. I don't have my things being woven. Nope, we're separating them. So now they are lovers separated by the Milky Way, only allowed to meet one day of the year. And it is the 7th day of the 7th month. You could say approximately with calendars. And one other note is that, she could do this only if she worked hard and finished her weaving. So I feel like there's some Taurus codes there. And she, or Hime, cried so much that a flock of magpies came and promised to make a bridge with their wings across the Milky Way so she could cross it. And so I decided to look some things up based on that story. And so, of course, an angry dad, so that energy I was bringing in earlier, it's not just about a dad when I mentioned Jupiter or Zeus, but like, I mean, mythology, lore across the world, there's, I feel like, a tyrannical father involved to some degree. And it's kind of like, just do as I say. And that's literally what my dad said to me yesterday. Like, whatever he wanted. And, it's like kind of a joke, but not really. So, an alternate name for Vega or Orihime is the Morning Glory Princess. And I'll touch back on that at some point. I'll touch back on all this stuff. And I think we're about more than halfway through this. So I'll get to some card pulls once I'm through it. Magpie. I wanted to bring up Magpie because I knew it was connected to a gene key. And not every gene key has a connection. And the gene key connections aren't the truth of all truth. But I was like, which one is it? I don't remember. Gene key 23, along with sheep and scarab as the dream arc. And it is called Splitting Apart Mountain Over Earth. So I thought that was really unique when it comes to the magpies coming to build this bridge. But the magpie gene key is called Splitting Apart. It was noted in the story lore that when it rains, the magpies cannot come. And so when it rains on the 7th day of the 7th month, it is taken as the lovers did not get to meet. And the rain is called the Tears of Orihime and, what was his name? Hikoboshi. So, this is in the throat center, gene key 23. Take it with a grain of salt. This is complexity to quintessence through simplicity. It reminds me of my Chinese guide who always tells me, simple, simple, because I overthink and make a lot of things more difficult than they need to be. And, like this guy said, every time you thought life would defeat you, you were wrong. And can we admit we were wrong at times? Quintessence is an interesting nod there, just based on alchemical lore with the word and the energy. And with complexity, we have two sides of that, shadow-wise, dumb or fragmented. And I'm looking more at like the fragmented energy as a part of this. But the mineral connected to gene key 23, funny enough, is emerald. And when we talk about the Treaty of Altair, it involves the Emerald Covenant. And so this is yet another display of me relaying to other people when it comes to trust that you can really find anything and everything. I didn't know Morning Glory Princess was that princess's nickname. I didn't even know that story. But the way it all came together once I decided to take notes is partially why I wanted to share this, even though I was like, this is a lot of information. And I'm trying to figure out, like, I feel like a part of me right now is like, figure out how to make money. And there's days and there's hours, time, money, math. But then I'm like, no, do what you want. Just be yourself. But then you have a kidney stone and you go, you know what? I really just don't care so much about any of it. And I gotta just share my weird stuff. So this is sort of alive. Like, I haven't done this in years. And I don't know what will come from it. It's not about putting something out there to get something back. But I am putting out yet another call with this live. So, okay, I mentioned Procyon before with that Orifim layer highlight. And Procyon Loader is a raccoon. And do you notice the raccoon theme right now with Jimothy? Jimothy, the raccoon. I did see an animal communicator, Lori, speak about connecting with Jimothy, and he was like, you guys should love all raccoons, not just me. And then he's right. And then I wanted to, as I have in the past, send a little bit of a nod to Rocket or Rocky Raccoon from the Marvel Universe, as he is the guardian of the Keystone Quadrant. And while very sassy, he's got a huge heart. So, okay, Ecliose, this constellation that holds Altair. It also holds, I think I'm yelling, extragalactic objects. And it may be it also contains maybe the largest single mass concentration of galaxies in the universe known, the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. and Hercules comes in here. So one of the planetary nebulas in Aquila is also called the glowing eye. So I wanted you to look at that a little bit about like eyes. There's a lot of cool stuff with eye anatomy, eye stuff. You know, you got like, the other day I was thinking like about balls in our bodies, and I was like, my head, it's sort of shaped like a ball. I got eyeballs, I got boobs, I got ovaries, and I don't know. I was like, they're all connected. They're all connected. So there's that. Glowing eye could also though be like glowing eye or glowing eye, like the letter I meaning you, meaning I, like I am Teresa, glowing, Leo, Aquarius, that juncture. Aquila is the bird, Aquila, who carried Jupiter or Zeus's thunderbolts. It just keeps happening where I talk about stuff and then it comes in some way. A thunderbolt is also called a unident, by the way. We got a unident, a bident, and a trident. Before coming back to themes of Zeus and Jupiter and Juno and Hercules and Hera and Poppy, I want to touch back on a little bit of that story, the Treaty of Altair. Some from Voyagers 2. People believe in a strictly linear timeline, that things have only occurred in this linear manner, and that they've declined sort of naturally or progressively through strife and divide. But there are more layers here, and in some sense, life is sort of like a long game of telephone. The bridges between what seems surreal or supernatural, hard to traverse at times. So with this treaty, I'm not going into all of the story, but this was to assist in the freedom from reincarnation cycle for those of us on Earth. And this was presented July 5th, the year 2000. And here in 2026, we have sort of like a density 2, dimension 4 solar Stargate power up based on me talking about this. So the bad aliens, they were like, okay, we'll rejoin the Emerald Covenant. And there were supposed ongoing Orion Wars, although again, I'm not fully sure of all the accuracy to certain things coming out of any set of teachings. September 12, 2000 comes, and those bad aliens declared an edict of war. Is it edict? Edict? Aisha in Voyagers 2, though, what does she say? Hello. She says, the news regarding the Treaty of Altair and the severity of the political drama concerning the contemporary Anunnaki visitor groups was news to me in September 2000, as it was to others. Was it, though, to everybody, Aisha? Or did you let things get a little out of hand? I'm lucky. Well, you know, what's funny is I have another friend in Tunisia, so, but hi, thanks for gracing us, I guess. I actually am very grateful for any and everyone who is here or watching the replay. So, putting out another call, like I said, a call to others like me, but not me, who did know. We already knew this, Aisha. We already knew all this was going to happen, and maybe you didn't know like I did, where you were like in the 90s being like, the year 2020 is going to be crazy. But part of you knew about the year 2000 and about the year 2020, and that is why I am mentioning that some of what Aisha and Lisa Renee have done is bad business, and they turned these teachings into something to get behind a paywall, while also speaking to things that, why would one mere human be the judger of other humans? It just, in that regard, ascension stuff. So, not to hate on them, because they did bring in some cool stuff, but I remember when I haven't read the whole book because I don't like reading, okay? But when I read it the first time, I was like, she was like, I didn't know, and neither did anyone else, because she wants to be the most specialist. And mind you, everybody's very special. She's very special. But I think some things of hers got to her ego in a certain way. And not that our ego is bad, but we can be certain ways about things and then add in business. It doesn't even have to be like, oh, I'm making so much money from business. It's the persona. Like, I know people that have become famous and they are not, like, they are playing a character. And so let me reel that in and not judge anybody too much there. But okay, aside from, we're going along back to these themes. Aside from 2 of the most prominent films and books, with some changes though with the movies, to influence society, mostly American society, but and beyond, these references, some of the ones I'm playing with, we have The Wizard of Oz and the Poppies, and we have Alice in Wonderland and the caterpillar, sometimes referred to as the blue caterpillar. He said, "Who are you?" And we have a nod to the poppy goddess. This is a statue, maybe more than one, at the Heraklion in Crete, Greece. It's an archaeological museum named after Hercules. This is a ceramic goddess figure wearing a poppy head crown, and the poppies are split vertically, and this can potentially suggest the excretion of opium. She's potentially a healing goddess of drug-induced peace and forgetfulness, a goddess as the bringer of sleep or death. She has 2 hands raised open. You could take this as a greeting or a blessing, maybe praying, or it could also, some say that this, what's this posture? What I'm doing is, it symbolizes her appearance on earth in human form. So poppies have been considered to be offerings to the dead. Significant markers about a century apart call that energy in as well. 1815 with Waterloo and 1914 with World War I. The bright scarlet poppies may be representing a promise of resurrection after death. Poppy also as the emblem of the goddess Demeter. Demeter also called Deo, D-E-O, almost like she's God. According to Theocritus, Demeter was a poppy goddess, bearing sheaves, poppies in both hands. As a little kid, I would sneak into my parents' closet, like that they had food in, and I would open this bag of poppy seeds, and I would just like, oh, this feels so good. Weird, right? Some even say that in Linear B script, Demeter's name meant poppy fields. Poppy also evoking the image of the queen of the underworld, which is especially interesting when it comes to the story with Demeter and her daughter and the underworld, and a big reason why we have seasons, apparently. Opium enlarges the boundless, extends the unlimited, gives greater depth to time. That is from Baudelaire, Les Fleurs de Mal. Opium is the only vegetable substance that communicates the vegetable state to us. That is from J. Cocteau, L'Opium. Opium potentially stimulated the visionary faculty and aroused visions which had earlier been obtained without opium, in some point in human history, that linear fashion. So like a strong medicine used to artificially induce the experience of transcendence in nature. And an example here are certain Native American tribes who used to fast and then started using mescaline or peyote. I attended a Lakota tribe Sundance in 2008, and they fasted. And it was really fun to watch them in terms of like having a conversation with someone, and then in the middle they would literally start their journey, and they'd be like, I gotta go into the woods now, and I'd be like, okay, bye. So not to say that it is about not using anything at all ever, but I am asking once again, what would make, with all these prohibitions and these tax acts, what would make someone not want to be here? And I'm not saying that to be cute, because it's like pretty clear that some things have been pretty awful long enough that, we don't want to, you're distracting me. I'm not going to read your comment right now because I'm trying to read my notes. So, thank you, but hold on. I will read your message once I'm done. So when it comes to this, though, it's like, I am not saying like, yeah, do whatever you want all the time, but this consideration of a part of you that exists without that opium or whatever it might be, but also within a society so, I don't want to say like depleted, but there's some layers of depletion. Of course, one would reach for something to help them open up in a certain way. So, funny enough, yes, I will admit, I was very nervous to come on here live because I haven't gone live in a while. And I was like, I want to eat some of my weed butter that I made. And I'm starting to feel it right now. And I feel a lot more comfortable. So, judge away, but also do what you gotta do, because I'm calling back to what I mentioned about kidney stones and those of us that are extremely sensitive. It's not about using crutches all the time. However, if you're like me, I don't have the same experience as other people with certain things. So like, I use things for the reason I use them, whether it is pain relief or maybe I want to do a journey or meditate and whatever. And again, you don't always have to use something, but I'm not trying to shame anyone here. I'm bringing a call to this layer with opium, poppy. I'm not really talking about the other prohibitions right now. I will in the future. For example, there's Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. No, not all types, but we could even say with the hypermobility aspect. And who knows, really? But that cannabis leaves are said to be one of the best things to consume to help rebuild the fiber of the body. However, one would say, are we shifting densities? Should we be focusing on just the carbon physical body, or are we crazy people who believe that we're shifting slightly to silica? I don't know. Funny enough, in this one cell salts book I have, California poppy, which cell salt is it listed under? Silica. So I don't know. I'm on to something. And yet we're getting to a place in time and space where like, I know how crazy or weird or whatever I sound. And yet there is some bridge we're building where this whole time, a lot of people have been saying the same thing and aren't really on as opposite of sides as they have been made to believe or perceived. There is this character, Mecon, but Mecon, and this was one of Demeter's young lovers, but at some point he was transformed into a poppy, and they say it was for his own preservation. That's pretty much all that is said in the little blurb that I read. I know there's more, but I'm not reading into all of it. Meconic, Meconic, pertaining to or derived from the poppy in reference to an acid obtained from opium. Mekonikos. Kind of sounds like Mykonos. I know it's not, but you know how I feel about tourism. I don't love it. Everybody stop going to Mykonos. Okay, so we have Mekon, Mekon in Greek, poppy. So it means poppy, but it's also this character that was Demeter's lover. It's, like with myth, it's layers, confusing, but always a little interesting, unless it's not the darkest stuff. Latin poppy is papaver, and it's has the root pop to swell, which also reminds me of Taurus again, with the cerebellum, but also there's this layer here with Taurus Scorpio, even though that's not the astrology we're looking at, sort of like that life and death energy with those two signs. The flower family of the poppy is Papaveraceae, but I looked at the word and said it says Papaveraceae. Vera means truth, and Papa is Papa. It's the poppy of the sea of truth, our grand poppy. That's what I talked about on Patreon. You guys know that. Our grand poppy. So again, another layer of some sort of masculine or father archetype healing, if you will. Poppy, we have opium and corn poppy representing sleep and death. And the corn poppy specifically connected to World War One. Okay, let me back it up a little bit though. We have Mechanopsis, poppy-like. This is a blue Himalayan flower. So somewhere kind of cold maybe. It was created in 1814 by this French botanist, Viguier. And in 1815, that was waterloo. In 1914, we have, a century later, we have the corn poppy now being chosen as this World War I remembrance flower. World War I being from 1914 to 1918. And in 1915 is when this Drug Enforcement Federal Act, the Narcotics Tax Act against opium, was formed. And so to me, it feels, even if it doesn't make sense, that we go through these waves of history and it's not just about governments, but it's just like how it's not about just one thing ever. Something brewing and something being involved in not just like, oh, there were the opium wars, but I'm talking about just in America as this holographic echo in stories, in this tax act, in society, but also this layer of everybody going to sleep. But we never talk about dreams. And yet we're reaching for a daydream, even if it's not about reaching for something like opium or whatever, When it comes to Hercules or Heracles, so, Latin Hercules, Greek Heracles, we have a hero, son of Zeus, god of strength. Hera, which is also like Juno, Zeus's wife, Jupiter's wife. I couldn't say this before either. Protectress. Okay, I said it. And then Kles, K-L-E-S. This could mean rumor or news or glory or fame. But if you look at the root of that word, it's K-L-E-U, to hear. Hera, hear, hero. In his works, Plato placed Atlantis beyond the pillars of Hercules. And I feel there's something to Hercules asteroid is right next to Uranus right now. And there's something to like these two arms and hands that Gemini governs, but also the way that our nervous system branches out from our brain and into our bodies. And not necessarily saying like, yeah, just go regulate your nervous system. However, more like what I was saying before about like being with yourself. Bringing things back to yourself. No, it's not all about you. Like, before I record this video, I'm like, oh, I'm so nervous. And I know me when I get nervous. I know a part of me, which is, I will be like, my heart's racing. And I'm like, I'm sweating. And so I went and got an ice pack because I was like, oh, that is a very simple help, because it's not about the story necessarily. It's my autonomic nervous system and some sort of remnants of the past and what I have experienced mixed with what I believe I have experienced and how I've perceived things. And so if in a moment I can be like, you're just going online, that's fine. And that's fine. Even though I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't fully know why. Like, there's unknowns. I don't need to be fully regulated to show up. But I can help myself out here and there without it being about like being weak. Maybe the strength here isn't about muscles. And especially so, something I'm working on is being able to show up in a certain way. A little bit more for other people. Because I felt very alone for like a solid 30 years. And didn't really have anyone to talk to. So it's not that I am a certain way. It's that like those years still live within me. And I'm still acting upon certain things that have to do with this layer of feeling safe. And so, moving along here, I think I'm on the last 2 pages. I wrote like 15 pages of stuff here. We have the Hercules constellation, which is aligned with the summer full moons over here in the northern hemisphere. We have Lambda Hercules. This is a part of the solar apex. There is something with this Leo energy, even if it's like, oh, well, in tropical, it's at the end, and it's further along in sidereal, and like, we're like, you know, that's not my wheelhouse of sorts. Mine's more, again, about vibes, even though people don't love that energy. Those who get me, get me. Okay, so with the constellation, it could be called the standing gods. It could also be called the sitting gods. It could also be called the kneeler. Just like, do what you want, I guess. Do you want to sit? Do you want to stand? Do you want to take a kneel? This constellation is near Lyra. And we have a lyre nod. Not a liar like people say Geminis are, but a lyre like Hermes' creation. Lyre. The organ in the brain that is the source of the singing voice. Again, this gene key 23 energy, the throat. And then we have Theta Hercules. Closest to Lyra, in Chinese cosmology called Tianqi, and this is heaven's record. So, like, don't let anybody else tell you who you are and keep some sort of record on you, because you can just be like, that star is heaven's record, okay? Sort of what I'm saying, though, is yes, like, let's set the record silly. Instead of, like, let's set the record straight. Let's set the record silly. And so there's something to all these layers. Do I know what that is? Not necessarily, but we're going to talk about some asteroids now. We have Hera and Demeter, sisters. Hera, also Juno. Hera asteroid conjunct Venus right now. And again, I said Venus. It's getting ready to station retrograde in October. Asteroid Hercules conjunct Uranus, and it will be even closer to Uranus on August 12th when we get to the new moon solar eclipse. Juno as Hera in this way. Juno, like I mentioned before, is right now conjunct Pluto and the moon, opposite the sun and Jupiter. Juno and Jupiter, opposite each other. Weeks ago, the Hercules soundtrack was sort of playing in my mind, like Zero to Hero. And in my Patreon group, someone shared that they saw a Hercules beetle. And that's when I shared with them, whoa, I keep seeing Hercules everywhere. So recently when I was like, I'm going to do a live for the full moon, and I was like, I don't know. And then it turned into a million notes instead of just a couple of notes, because I was like, everything's connected all the time. So, while I was writing these notes, a wood frog in the pool I had to rescue. My dad has his holy pool. It's the most important thing ever. I don't love the pool because so many bugs die. And yes, that is me. So I got the pool out and I was talking to it. It was a wood frog, and they're the kind of frog that has like, it looks like a robber mask. Kind of like a Ninja Turtle, but a froggy. And he was so tiny, and I was like, please don't be hurt. Because I've seen the frogs jump in the pool, but usually at night. And so I was like, oh, this little froggy baby. And then I looked up, what does wood frog mean? And it said rebirth. Then I was walking around the yard, and I saw this green June beetle. And it was on its back, and my dad had pulled it out of the pool. You know, the filter, and he just dumps it on the grass. And it was like, and I was like, I will pick you up, and I will try to help you. And I was like, I will sing to you. And then it died in my hands. And I thought, oh, I was too late. Or was I right on time? Because we held hands as they died, and I felt like a death doula. Then I looked up, what is the green June beetle's symbolism? And this is slow down, adapt. Later in the day, I rescued, this was all yesterday, I rescued a locust from the pool. My dad first thought it was a frog, and he was like, ooh, a frog, let's get it. And then when we noticed it was a locust, he was like, oh, a bug, who cares? And I was like, I will save you. And locusts are so goofy looking. They got those like big eyes. They're just like, so I got him out and oh, that reminds me, I also saved a fly yesterday that had flown into the screen, and either its head or its eye was like stuck in the screen. I don't know what's going on. But again, I was really feeling like a death doula. But also like, okay, these little things I can do, even though my dad thinks it's pointless. So it took a while, but the locust eventually flew away. I think he's okay. So the locust reminded me, though, of the calamity before harmony, but that's actually what it represents. And what I meant to say is it represents calamity before harmony and rebirth, and that reminded me of, I don't know why I just did this, because this is not a horse, the fire horse. So all of them representing natural cycles and rhythms and seasonal renewal. But again, funny enough that Demeter is a big part of this, mythological, but if you were like me, when I was little, I was like, winter. I don't like that. I think something's wrong here. So maybe I'm fragmented and I don't remember, but I also think there is something to the collective elemental body. And there's clearly something here with Poppy. Not fully sure what, but it's there. So like I said, I wrote some of these notes before. I'd shared some of them with my Patreon crew. Some of them I didn't share, but I wrote before. And when I wrote them initially, I had a dream. And in my dream, I saw a goldfinch. And a goldfinch represents death and resurrection and the human soul. And then I was like, oh yeah, I do remember this, that Gene Key 15 has finch and beetle together. We have Hercules beetle, but we also have the golden mottled tortoise beetle. Go look up the golden mottled tortoise beetle if you don't know what one looks like, because they're quite dazzling and spectacular, especially if you like bugs. I saved one. Maybe I'll use a different word than saved, because that feels weird. I'm a savior. But I helped one to survive. That sounds weird too. Who am I? But no, I did help one, and that's when I was like, what are these beetles? And that one didn't turn red. But what I soon discovered after my obsession grew with these beetles in my backyard is that they turn red when they're scared. Although part of me said, how did that, maybe they're just excited. How do I know they're scared? But, I'm like, don't be scared of me. I love you. And then they just probably feel like stomp, stomp, stomp. So I had to take a look at myself, because some days initially I was shaking the bush a little bit that they sit on. Like a little kid. Like I was like, I just want to see their beauty. I was like, I just gotta see how beautiful they are. They're so pretty. And then I said, Teresa, that's weird. You're kind of trying to scare them so they fly, and then you see them, and that's... Maybe a part of me could go, well, no one sees it. And not like, oh, judgment day will come, and then they will be like, you did that thing. No, just more like, why am I doing this? What does this mean? So aside from some self-reflection, my inner child stubbornness, if you will, I went to take a picture of one of them one day when it was red, and it said to me, nope. Leave me alone. Do not take my picture. So I respected it. And that is when I started doing a little bit more introspection. So I'm sharing that part because everyone, I feel like, is having this energy mixed with maybe some other energies where it's like a horny energy, but not about sex necessarily, but just this frustration. Like you want the orgasm to come. And then this other side where you're like a little kid and you're like, I want to see them. It's like, what is this? So why are they in my backyard? Because there's a bunch of morning glory in our backyard. It grows so easily, as a weed, bindweed sort of thing. And if you remember from the story, Orihime Vega is the morning glory princess. And morning glory, some of the seeds can actually contain an LSD-like effect when consumed. So, I don't have like a full-on conclusion here. And can I see how long this has been? Oh, it's almost been an hour. I don't know how long they'll let me go. Pardon me. And I'll read a comment in a bit, but okay. All of these things are connected without me coming to a conclusion if you just listen to everything that I shared. And, there's something to, let's say, instead of, like I had called for earlier in the year, a rude awakening. And I think we got that in some areas. And now I feel like it's a little bit more like you realize you don't like waking up like that. I don't like that alarm. Or I don't like this environment. I wanna cultivate a more comfortable, nurturing, tender, whatever arena for my sleep. I did share about some biphasic sleeping, or there's several different ways to sleep. I'm not here to tell you whether sleep is important or not, but I'm more so speaking to the layer of a dream-like state of being and how hard it is for us to sometimes say, oh, maybe everything is fucking connected. Not to prove a point, but to say we don't need to necessarily get so specific about some stuff because it's a waste of time. And there are some things occurring, like you could say there's war in certain places because of a Stargate or because of resources, but it's not necessarily or it's all of that stuff. So, I called Aquarius North Node a weird demon because weird and demon both mean genius fortune. They don't mean genius fortune, but they both mean genius, but also fortune. So, I encourage you to move towards your genius as your fortune, you fucking weirdo. And then we have the sun, like I said, conjunct Jupiter, the honorable mentions of Psyche and Hygeia. We have Demeter asteroid at the south node in Leo, so that it does bring in this energy in a way that I think is pretty fucking cool. And I didn't even look up Demeter or Poppy asteroids until I had written all these notes, and then I was like, oh, cool, okay. So I'm sharing that not to be like, look at how cool and special I am. Again, this could be totally boring to some people, although if it was boring you should not be watching this long. But I'm mentioning it again to say, wow, like you don't need to try to figure things out. You like follow your encouragement with some, observer energy, checking in with those autonomic body sensory systems, not being too hyper vigilant, being vigilant maybe in the areas you individually need to be, but, you don't need to try to prove for things to come and say, here I am. So we have Demeter at the south node, so that's opposite the north node. Hera conjunct Venus. Hercules conjunct Uranus. So how did that happen, that they all happen to be near something? And then we have the moon with Pluto and Juno, and Poppy is conjunct the moon. All at Altair. So I thought this came together in a really cool way, and I wasn't going to share this because I've been doing this for years now, I think, where I, like, take a bunch of notes and then I'm like, I don't feel like sharing them. So then I just have, like, piles of papers. Wait, hold on. I wanted that one paper. Now I gotta find it. Piles of papers, and, it doesn't need to be perfect, but I'm just, it's sort of like I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for whoever actually likes what I'm talking about and doesn't just find me entertaining. But also, this live is encoded with some stuff. That's why I keep looking around now and then, because I'm trying to fuck shit up in the best way possible. And I have some stuff to say, but I can't just be saying it to everybody. I have people from my college coming on this live that probably think I'm crazy. Maybe not. Clearly, that's what I think people think I am, because that's how people have treated me. However, I have some good things to say. So I am hoping this makes it, to the people it needs to. I'm going to pull a couple cards and wrap this up because it's already at an hour, and that's quite long. Should I just start another live? I don't know. All right. Questions I have here. What lies at the bridge between worlds? Okay, I guess I'll do that one. What needs to die? I keep doing that. What is unknown that wants to be known? Maybe needs to be known. And what is our collective life mission, our collective mission asking of us now? So let me see, because I didn't really get ready here with that. Yeah, I'll use that one. I'll use the same deck that I used in those Day of the Week posts, so one of them might be the same thing. But that will be the second one. Okay. And then, okay, what do I want to do there? Known and unknown. I'll do a bird one there. Okay. People become like robot, especially mans. They didn't feel their power. They just want to protect themselves from pain, and that's why they're showing power, not talking about it all. But yeah, exactly. Like, and it sort of sucks to like understand or comprehend. Like, I just like, like my dad, he can be a real jerk, but there's a side of him where he's just emotional and doesn't, like, I feel like especially men, it's like, you shut up, you little bitch. I don't know why I have this weird accent I do, but I think there's far more understanding between us all in that regard than there is actual separation. One day we'll meet, I'm sure, maybe we'll all have a big party. Did you say please don't talk too much when it happens? All right, I'm not meeting you. Sorry. That's it. And yes, all the art in the background is me. Yeah, why would you say that to me? I don't like that. Maybe I don't like you. I don't know. You need to check out Jason Brashear's work, Archaics, on YouTube. Okay, Alex, I will. Wait, I need to like take a screenshot then. My face is funny. Really like this analogy with the Beatles and being kind of naughty. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me wrap this up. Let me pull one more card. Whew. Okay, what is our... Okay, that will be interesting. You're back? I don't care because you said don't talk too much or whatever. I don't know you to be talking to me like that. And plus, I'm gonna talk. Okay, so... I don't know why you like this with me? Why are people like this with me? We know each other online. Why don't you get to know somebody before acting like I know your humor? Okay. What lies at the bridge between worlds? The mystic. Yes, this is my artwork. Look at that butterfly. Psyche was like, ha, ha, honorable mention, my wings. 21. I'm just going to read it because I've done enough talking as some of you have clearly relayed to me. Okay. This looks like, I mean, I should read it, but I'm like, are there little pearls on the sides? I have a pearl here. Okay. The mystic, the seeker, the light worker, the dreamer, of course. See, we're all dreamers, but it's like, we don't need you to put us to sleep, but maybe the poppy goddess Demeter knows exactly what to do. The mystic is often misunderstood in our culture, depicted as a wandering or light-hearted daydreamer. Yet, like Shiva, the true mystic plays a critical role in society, remaining fearlessly dedicated to the path of transformation. In order to save the earth from darkness, Shiva swallows the poison of the world and holds it in his throat, slowly transmuting the liquid into nectar. Okay. This is the work of the mystic. They do not fear darkness, but rather sit in the presence of it, harness the potential and latent energy behind it, and embed it with light. They are patient and prudent change makers, seeking growth above all else. Unanswerable questions are the mystic's lifeblood. The mystic revels in mystery, in the great riddle of life, dancing with the forces of light and dark upon its wings. Like any light worker, the mystic must build a relationship with fire, and this begins by awakening the inner flame. Be inflamed. It may seem that the mystic is inward facing, yet its light beams back to the world with the strength of 1,000 stars. Well, that's fucking cool when it comes to everything I have brought up. I mean, I think it's cool. Maybe I should just don't give disclaimers. Because of this Hercules, god of strength, but the pillars, there's a lot of layers there that I don't need to point out. When dark, expects results, seeks attention and recognition. Oops. When light, remover of darkness, visionary, ageless. Go deeper. Zen koans, poetry, Murakami novels. I'm not sure how you say it. Maybe I'll take a picture of these and share them somewhere. So again, what lies at the bridge between worlds? Oh, hi. The mystic. Let me see, eyeball. The glowing eye. Okay. What needs to die? Wave. I knew it. I had a feeling one of the cards would come up again. I really like this card, mostly because of the aesthetics. I'll be honest there. Me likey pretty. One pet peeve about this book, if I may share, is that there's no table of contents. So every time I'm like, where are the cards? Okay, wave. It's probably water. Okay, so what needs to die? Since considering it's wave and the theme is unity, but that's not what needs to die. So we would look at the imbalanced energy here. Loneliness and isolation, and a pervasive mistrust of one's intuition. And again, that's kind of why I put myself out here in certain ways, is to show you, I guess, in some sense, yet again, that things are connected. You can find anything and everything, but you really have to follow you. You can't, it doesn't really matter what it's about, but it also has to be the way you believe it. If you don't really believe in something, it's better to say you don't know and be honest with yourself than take on someone else's imprint and live that way. Because nobody knows anyone else's story or path here. And that could be what, awakens more. I guess I'm speaking to unity. Wave's duration is unbounded. He loops consistently within his own tempo. I don't know why it's a he, but she does a lot of he's in this book. He is fearless and valiant, peaking repeatedly through constant diligence. Forged by wind and initiated by moon, he is a conundrum. A river drum. Both distinct and inseparable from the ocean. Each wave is unique and yet emanates from and returns to his mother element. Okay. His potential manifests as an eternal now. Wave rolls in as a reminder that you are a part of something much greater than your individual life. You are a fantastic and improbable expression of existence, the creative force that generates and organizes the life of every animal, star, snowflake, plant, and nebula in the universe also chose to experience itself uniquely and beautifully as you, and vice versa. Knowing yourself as an autonomous but inseparable participant in all of life helps allay painful perceptions of separation from others and even unclaimed parts of yourself. It opens you to the truth-filled salve that is safe to rest into your innate and magnificent connection with your wholeness and all of life. So here, the balanced is enjoyable sense of connection with oneself, which is a theme of this reading. And then to bring into balance, the sound of ocean waves balances the brain's hemispheres and helps brings forth an awareness of unity consciousness. And I would suggest, if you are someone who has a voice and can express yourself in certain ways, I think it's something really cool to acknowledge what I brought up in the beginning, is that some stuff sucks. I think sometimes people would wish that things like racism were just a thing that's like demons. And yet it really is like the medium that is life. Like, what are we going to do with stuff? And we do have a choice and a voice to speak up for people or beings that cannot speak up in a certain way, but also in general, being able to put yourself in others' shoes and actually feel into the wider spectrum of what the fuck is going on. You will see how much whitewashing and like historical violation of story has occurred. And there's not just one story. What is unknown and wants to be known? Crow, of course. And a little thing I want to say is that there used to be American crows in my tree. It's the neighbor's tree, but it's the crows I speak with. And in the last 2 to 3 years, the holograph has shifted, the holography, and now they are fish crows. If you look it up on the internet, it will say, oh, well, the American crows had this disease and they're dead. They're not dead everywhere, but like, how could the crows there just turn into fish crows? And I'm not saying that but am I? But that's not what this is about. So what is unknown and wishes to be known? The crow says universal laws and truths are now being revealed. Use this energy to create your reality. So I'll read this because the last one isn't going to be as long, and then I will head off of here. Okay. Let me take a sip of water first. Okay. Crow is it's a common bird. I mean, it's very extraordinary. Crow is a common bird that likes to test, intrigue, and annoy. So it is an American crow, and it's pretending to be a fish crow. Okay. They can be found often in groups, creating sounds in a mob-like fashion with their caw to warn off, drive off predators. The common crow is black with dark blue or purple tones, and it has deep associations with the nighttime, the maternal, and the womb. Crows are highly intelligent sentinels who perch high in trees, overseeing the flow of activity. Is Demeter connected to crow? She's the grain. I feel like she is. They remind us that creation and magic are a part of the cosmic energies. Under the guidance of universal laws, we find an incredible roadmap for manifesting our desires. And then the message here says, the crow is a wise messenger of the power of creation. Crow speaks the language of the universal creator, the Sky King, and asks you to go into the darkness to tap into your manifesting ability. Pay attention to messages, visions, and signs. The universal laws govern all and tell us that there is an unending field. Demeter. Just saying. Oh, hi. Demeter, an unending field of potential that can be accessed. You can think of it as magic or as universal energy. It matters not. I don't know if you're still here, but I don't know why people from my college that I never talked to have probably just accidentally popped in. The energy of Crow is urging you to start creating all that you desire. Crow playfully reminds you to enjoy the process. So the energies are creation, universal laws, communication, season, all year round. Would never stop. Elements of earth and air, colors black and purple, and the final affirmation here is I acknowledge my higher connection, my own higher connection. I am a powerful channel. So again, like the other cards, trusting your own intuition. Oh, how cliche, but I'm fucking serious. You better. There's something to knowing too, though, when you are, potentially hearing somebody else's mind or hearing their thoughts, experiencing things where it's like, oh, we're all feeling each other. We're all next to each other. So this is not a bad thing, but it can open up pathways between us for discussing certain things. One time my friend told me a whole story about how Source came to her and said stuff, and I was like, okay, and I didn't know how to be like, that was definitely like me. And then later she came to me and she was like, I think that was you. I think that was your thoughts. And I was like, yeah, it was like me being really encouraging and like saying stuff out loud. And she received it. And I was like, hey, that is how, if that's how it needs to be, that's fucking beautiful. It's not about being like, yeah, I'm Source. But that sometimes our intuition is a little different than thoughts, you know? So just getting a little bit more familiar with the wide spectrum of feelings and whatever your intuition feels like for you. How do you sense it? And maybe just staring at a candle flame in the dark can be something fun. Be safe though, okay? Okay, and the last thing I said, very funny. What is our collective mission asking of us? Camellia, peace. Be calm and calm will come. Funny enough, that's sort of what I was telling my mom and my cats earlier today, was a lot of stuff isn't our stuff to do. And it's not that we don't care about things. Like me personally, I don't speak about a lot of current events on social media. I do speak about some things. However, I process some things a little differently. And I don't think us speaking on everything in certain ways is like the unified pathway towards this forward growth. I don't know. I just think there's something to, I forget what I was saying because now I just saw what you said. It was Emma's flower plant. That's so, I mean, that's so cool. It's like, I feel like that's confirmation of what I'm saying, where everything is speaking to us. And at some point, almost like because listen to your intuition has become a little bit, not necessarily cliche, but it's become such a common thing to hear in some way. It's not necessarily the same thing as it was, because as we grow collectively, maybe we realize that our sensory system had been bombarded by separation. So some things like a noise you heard is like, oh, is that a ghost? Is that something coming to get me or whatever? When really it's like another energy, another person's existence, whether they are here in a body or not. And it's not necessarily this fearful scenario. So what I was saying a little bit though, I feel with that, be calm and calm will come, is like, not that you're ignorant, but that where you are speaking up or doing what you can, but also I feel super important where whatever you believe sleep is, however many hours you wish to sleep, do that. And maybe even set yourself, you know, little post-it notes or alarms on your phone or whatever it is to sort of allow you the wiggle room to make certain habitual changes, but not being too strict about it, because I don't think there's a rush, but we are going to be feeling more of what I referred to earlier with the Yang fire horse year, which is like calamity. Doesn't mean everything's awful, but I think it's even more important with the simple things. I mean, super simple is just like, you know, what it feels like when you're like, oh, I'm angry and I hate everything. And then you eat and you're like, I just love even my enemies. Maybe not that extreme, but yeah. Like, I love to be like, I hate what these people did. I don't hate them necessarily, even if I'd be like, oh, I hate your ass. I think it's like fun and good to actually express how you feel. Because no, I don't want to be friends with people I don't like. But do I need to be actively hating people? No. So there's something to that Leo energy and magnesium and how when we are emotional, and I think wind was brought up with that wave, and wind is like a wood energy. And I feel like, is that wood? No, I don't remember. Now I'm confusing myself. And now I totally forgot what I was saying just then. Well, I think that's because I really, what is it at? Almost 85 minutes. So unless someone wants to tell me what I was saying, maybe that's just an invitation to wrap this up. So all of that to say happy full moon, but also please get a reading from me if you would like to. It won't be this long. Maybe it will, though. Depends. I'll show these cards one more time before getting off. We have the Mystic, the Wave. So I'll say, this is what lies at the bridge between worlds. This is what needs to die. But, you know, waves come again. Unknown to known is Crow and the universal laws and collective mission, Camellia and peace. So, not necessarily easy. Simple doesn't mean easy. And yet, we can still do things simply. And part of what I was saying is like showing up in those little ways day to day, creating some sort of sanctuary for ourselves where we feel like we are grounded. Doesn't mean you are one emotion all the time, but that's what I was going to say before. Being excessively emotional or not, you know, like suppressing your emotions, neither are necessarily good for your health. And so something to, you know, feeling into, like some things, like me doing this live is because I don't love doing this, so it feels not so great. And I mean, I like doing it, but I also feel like social media can be confusing and people are weird towards me in a certain way. But I'm also kind of playing a character by even saying all of that. So doing something at some point where you don't need to do a thing because it scares you, but you check in and you go, oh, I'm not necessarily scared. It's really just like these memories and the feeling and sensation. And for me, I was just like, oh, my heart's beating fast. I did go grab an ice pack because I think I mentioned that. Because then it's like, okay, if I feel hot and that helps, it can kind of get me back into my body a little bit more about what the story really is, which is I'm just pressing a button and talking. Not everyone will like it, and I don't, like I said before, I don't know fully why I'm doing it or what I'm doing, but I am putting it out there, and I feel like part of all that I'm saying is not just about the full moon, but that Aquarius North Node energy somehow showing up for each other. Not just doing lives. So for those of you that I said I'd get back to your message, talk to you soon. I love you, and yeah. I feel like I never know how to end things, and this is what I always do. I'll be like, okay, I guess bye. But bye.